class, I would like to say that this the subject of mind is a fascinating subject. First, because um, when we are trying to understand the mind, we have to use the mind itself. So it's kind of fascinating and a bit weird because we are using the same thing that we are studying. Like the subject is the same with the tool that we are going to use. So this self-referential process is both challenging and a wonder. And I'm just hoping that this introspective process will lead us to some or better understanding about the nature of mind and consciousness in relation to meditation practice. All right. So everything that we're gonna discuss tonight falls under the uh, category of what we call yoga psychology. Yoga psychology is not your usual psychology that we know from our school, from what we learn in science, in the in the Western style, but yoga psychology is a specialized kind of or special kind of psychology that is rooted in the, let's say, Eastern or Oriental philosophy. So in Ananda Marga, we want yoga psychology to be part of philosophy because right now, uh, psychology is just part of science. Uh, in Ananda Marga, we want it to be part of both science and philosophy. And the reason why we want psychology or yoga psychology to be part of philosophy is because it offers a more comprehensive understanding of human nature. Yoga psychology encompass physical, the mental, and spiritual dimensions. And here is the definition of yoga psychology. And to make this class a more interactive, I'm gonna call someone from you, um, and then read it as simple as that. So yeah, Rom, can you read this definition of yoga psychology for us?
Yoga psychology is the exploration of the mind through yoga. It looks at how the mind, body, and spirit connect and uses practices like meditation and concentration to foster self-understanding and spiritual growth.
All right. So that is definition of yoga psychology. It is a holistic approach to uh, to human mind. All right. So like I said, it should be incorporated in the philosophy, other than the of, other than its holistic approach, because also yoga psychology highlights the value of practical techniques for personal development and mental discipline. It also balances the theoretical knowledge with the practical application. One more thing, yoga psychology serves as a bridge between science and spirituality. It provides a unified approach in understanding human consciousness and its potential. It introduced new insights and perspective regarding philosophical discussion. So those are the reason why in Ananda Marga we wanted to be part of philosophy. I mean the yoga psychology to be part of philosophy. But of course, when we talk about yoga psychology, the root word is yoga. But the yoga here, we are not talking about the physical postures that we normally do in the yoga studios or yoga classes. But yoga here as a lifestyle, as a complete philosophy. So, Anchubi, can you read the definition of yoga here? Unmute yourself and then read the definition.
Yoga is a holistic system that encompasses physical, mental, and spiritual practices aimed at achieving self realization and a deeper connection with the universal consciousness.
And like I said, yoga is not just the physical aspect or the asanas. Here is the complete aspects of the yoga lifestyle or philosophy. It has 8 branches or 8 limbs. So this represents the entire lifestyle of yoga. The asana that you are most likely doing in the yoga studios is only one of the branches of the yoga. So in a gatekeeping sense, if you're only doing the asanas, you're not yet yogi, but uh, you will get there once you practice all these 8 aspects of yoga: the pratyahara, the dharana, the dhyana, the yamas and the niyamas, which is the moral codes of a yogi, and of course the asana and the pranayama. And when you combine everything this, the result will be samadhi. Okay, but we were not gonna talk more about this yoga philosophy. We will focus on the yoga psychology, the psychological and spiritual aspect of yoga. So, to give a better differentiation of yoga psychology to conventional psychology, this is uh, the the difference between yoga psychology and the conventional psychology. In regards to approach of the conventional psychology or the Western psychology, it's more materialist and empirical, meaning it goes through the 5 senses of the body. While in yoga psychology, it's more holistic, meaning it integrates the physical, mental, and spiritual. And for the aim, the conventional psychology understands and treats mental disorders and improving mental health, while in the yoga psychology, more about self-realization and spiritual growth. And for the techniques and practices, conventional psychology is more on therapeutic interventions, counselings, and medication, while the yoga psychology, it offers yoga techniques such as meditation, asanas, breath controls, etc. For the mind-body connection, it separates mind and body, focusing more on the cognitive and emotional aspects of mental health for the conventional yoga. But for yoga psychology, it emphasizes the mind-body connection and integrates physical and mental well-being. For the transpersonal perspective, the conventional psychology focus on individual experiences and behavior within the context of society, while the yoga psychology acknowledge the existence of higher states of consciousness and the interconnectedness of all beings. So I'm putting this difference between conventional psychology and yoga psychology not to pit them against each other, but to highlight the main differences of these two uh, school of psychology. But both are important. Both are they both complement one another to give us a better understanding of the human mind and its relation on how to improve ourselves as part of society. All right. So let's talk about the mind because this class is mostly about the mind. I remember. So what mind is? This question reminds me of this anecdote, or you can say a bit joke about what mind is. So when someone was asked what mind is, his answer is doesn't matter. And then when he was asked what is matter, never mind. So it shows the the connections of mind and matter. But tonight, what I'm going to give a definition for the mind is not, it doesn't matter, but something more foundational, something more descriptive, which is the mind is the seat of consciousness. All right. So in yoga psychology, the mind has the central role in consciousness because it is through the mind that we experience and perceive the world. The mind has the ability to think, analyze, and contemplate. The mind is responsible for storing and retrieving memories. The mind encompasses not only the conscious mind, but also the subconscious and unconscious levels. All right, so uh, the definition of mind being the seat of consciousness, it implies that the mind and consciousness are two different and distinct concepts. So they are two different things. So do not confuse the mind to consciousness. They are different. And then this is the analogy of how the mind differs from consciousness. You can think of the mind as the airplane's cockpit, while the consciousness is the pilot of that said airplane. Like I said, the mind is like an airplane cockpit, um, because the mind is the command center where all the controls and instruments are located. It's where sensory inputs are received, decisions are made, actions are happen. The cockpit is essential for the operation of the plane, just as the mind is crucial for the functioning of an individual's perception and its interaction with the world. In this analogy, consciousness is the pilot, or it's like the pilot, because the pilot is the one who observes, interprets, and uses all the information and controls the cockpit to fly the plane. Similarly, consciousness is the aspect of our being that observes, experiences, and understands the information processed by the mind. It's the sense of self that is aware of our own thoughts, emotion, and sensations. And just as the pilot needs a cockpit to effectively control and direct the airplane, consciousness also utilizes the mind to interact with or to navigate through our lives. The cockpit analogy provides uh, the cockpit analogy provides the interface and tools for the pilot, and the mind offers the cognitive and perceptual tools for consciousness. The mind as the seat of consciousness means the mind is an integral and active aspect of consciousness. It serves as a medium or platform where cognitive experiences are formed, processed, and understood. So with this analogy, some of you might say, what about if the plane is in autopilot mode, meaning it operates on its own with uh, minimal control of the pilot. Well, if the plane is on autopilot mode, it only means that the person is operating on habitual or routinary or mechanical way with consciousness in a more passive or monitoring role. but the consciousness will always be there. Behind the mind is the consciousness. That is what it means by the definition of mind being the seat of consciousness. Uh, the front will always be the mind, but behind the mind will always be the consciousness. And we will talk more about the consciousness later on. And we have a question from here from Zina. Therefore, the physically wait physically the mind is the brain. No, the brain is another concept, another entity different from the mind and consciousness. We will talk about it. Actually, on the next slide, we will have we will talk about the difference between the brain, the mind, and the consciousness. All right. You can think of the brain. So another analogy this time about the brain, the mind, and consciousness. Before we use the airplane analogy to differentiate the mind between consciousness. Now we will use a more common example or analogy. Let's use the computer analogy to be able to understand what brain is as compared to what mind is and as compared to what consciousness is. You can think of brain as the hardware of the computer. Brain is the physical organ of the body that do the mental processes and control of our nervous system. It is the physical or material basis of the mind. Just like the physical components of a computer, like the CPU, the motherboard, the mouse, keyboard, and the hardwares, the brain is the physical and the tangible part of that process information. It's the brain is made up of neurons and other structures that work together to control everything between as what your body do. So the brain is the physical organ of the human body. It process what the mind is telling it to do. So it is like the outermost layer of the mind. But the mind is, you can think of the mind as the software um, running on the brain's hardware. Like the operating system of let's say computers like Windows or Mac or any other apps or widget installed in the mind, including our thoughts, memories, emotions, and the decision-making processes, similar to how computer software operates to perform tasks, to process data, and allow the user to interact with the computer. So like what you are seeing in front of your or laptop or computer or cell phone, that is the software you're interacting with. But if you're holding your cell phone, that is the hardware part, which is the brain. But the interface is the mind. Now, the consciousness is the programmer. Think of consciousness as the programmer who writes the software and tells the computer what to do. It's the aspect of ourselves that is aware of our existence, experiences, and the outside world. It's our sense of self that utilizes the mind to make decisions and react to the environment. And of course, without the programmer, there will be no software and there will be no computer in general. It's just like other things like stones, but with the programmer, we have the computer. So the brain is the physical, but more subtle than the brain is the mind, which act like the software of our mind, while the consciousness is what behinds everything, behind the brain, behind the mind, is the consciousness. So the brain is different from the mind. The brain is just a part of the human body, while the mind is more is a non-physical aspect of our brain and also the expression of consciousness. All right. Um, so welcome to those who just entered this webinar. So now we are talking about what mind is. All right. Karen, can you read this definition of what mind is?
Sure. What mind is? The mind is the expression of consciousness. The mind is the collective aspect of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It is through the mind that consciousness interacts with external world and processes information.
Thank you for that. So first, we define the mind as the seat of the consciousness. And now another definition to better for us to better understand what mind is the definition of mind as the expression of consciousness. It implies that the mind comes from consciousness because the mind is the expression of consciousness. So the mind originates from consciousness. It means that consciousness is more fundamental aspect from which the mind arises. It also means that the consciousness is the underlying reality or basis of the mind. All right. So to better understand now the difference between uh, the mind and consciousness. So this is the representation. The mind or the consciousness is the ocean, the vast and peaceful ocean, while the mind is just the ocean waves. Uh, the consciousness as the ocean fits well because the ocean is vast, deep, and calm, while the mind as the waves are periodic and restless. The consciousness as ocean represents the vast underlying essence of awareness. It is the depth of all the potential experiences that are calm and unchanging, regardless of the activity on its surface. While the mind as waves represents the transient, the ever-changing mental states and processes. They rise and fall, they come and go, and are always in a state of change, influenced by many other factors. The waves are most of the time active, or the mental waves are most of the time active, but it doesn't define the vastness and the mystery of the entire ocean. Just like the mind is not the consciousness, as consciousness is pure and eternal, mind is the expression of consciousness, just as the waves are the expressions of the motion of the ocean. So I hope by using this analogy, you'll get to picture out the difference between the mind and the consciousness. If you have if you need some clarification, if you have some immediate question regarding these things, feel free to write it down on the chat box so we can address it immediately. So the function of the mind. Let's talk more about the mind and its function. Kavya, can you read this slide? Can you, all right. Welcome. Kavya, are you with us? Angeline, how about you? All right, let's go back to.
Uh,
Oh,
yes po.
all right. Can you read this slide regarding the function of the mind? So to make this class more interactive, more participatory, go ahead.
Sige. Okay. The function of the mind. The mind functions as a medium or instrument through which the consciousness expresses itself in the physical realm. The mind is the collective aspect of individual thoughts, emotions, and experiences. It is through the mind that consciousness interacts with the external world and processes information. The mind, therefore, is not just a passive receiver, but an active interpreter and translator of consciousness. It shapes and defines how consciousness is experienced and expressed by each individual.
Thank you for that. So the mind functions as a medium or instrument through which the consciousness expresses itself in the physical realm. The mind is the medium of the consciousness. Mm, this statement suggests that there is a division of roles between consciousness and the mind. Here, consciousness is seen as a primary non-physical essence or force that is inherent to all beings. It is the core of our awareness, while the mind functions as a set of tools or mechanisms, including thoughts, emotions, and sensory perceptions. It allows consciousness to interact with the physical world. It is the interface that connects the gap between the non-physical realm of pure awareness and the physical realm of the tangible experiences. So yeah, this the mind is like a weird thing, but the consciousness is even weirder because it is everywhere and yet we don't see it. But the consciousness is everywhere. It is but it is it is very subtle. That's why we cannot directly perceive it using our uh, senses. But the mind is not just a passive receiver, but an active interpreter and translator of consciousness. So that the role of the mind is to interpret the information received from the brain, guided by the consciousness. Right. Another concept is the components of the mind. So to better understand what mind is, let's break it down into its components. All right, Zina, you wanna read these things?
Sure. Components of the mind. Correct me if I pronounce it wrong.
All right.
Sita,
Cheetah.
cheetah, the mind stuff or the mental fabric that makes up the mind, storage of all mental propensities, emotions, and thoughts. Aham, the ego or the I feeling, represents the sense of self or identity. Mahat, the cosmic mind or the collective consciousness associated with the highest awareness and intelligence.
All right. So in according to yoga psychology, the mind has three components, and the first one is the cheetah. Cheetah, not the animal, but yeah, it's a Sanskrit word. So cheetah means the mind stuff or the mental fabric that makes up the mind. All right, so it means that the cheetah is the fundamental substance or material that constitutes the mind. It is the building block or the raw material of the mind. Just as physical objects are made of physical matter, mental phenomenon like thoughts, emotion, memories, are also made of this mind stuff. So Chitta is the basis upon which the conscious mind operates and interacts with the world. Also, Chitta function like a very big storage facility of the mind. Every experience a person goes through, every thought they have, every emotion we feel, and every sensation we perceive are recorded and stored in Chitta. And because of this accumulated experience stored in Chitta, it significantly impacts our behavior, our actions, our attitudes, and even affects our decision-making processes. For example, past experiences can shape one's response to a new situation and affects our decision-making process. So that is the first component, which is Chitta. The next is the aham, or the ego, or the I feeling, not the I of the face, no, but the sense of self, the I, the big capital letter I. The aham can be defined as the sense of self or ego in an individual. It is the part of the mind that creates the feeling of I or me, distinguishing um, oneself from the external environment. Aham is responsible for one's personal identity, self-awareness. It, it essentially forms the core of, of who a person believes they are. Aham also interprets experiences as belonging to the individual and is central to one, how one perceives and interacts with the world. And then the third component of the mind uh, is Mahat. In simple terms, Mahat can be defined as the cosmic mind, our collective consciousness. It represents a higher level of awareness and intelligence that goes beyond individual consciousness. Mahat is often seen as the source of universal knowledge and wisdom, encompassing and transcending the minds of individual beings. It is associated with broader understanding, insight, and a sense of connectedness to a large reality or the universe as a whole. So, to better understand these three components, the Chitta, the Aham, and the Mahat, let's use another analogy. Think of the Chitta as a diary and the Aham as the name tag and Mahat as the internet. All right. So Cheetah as a diary. Um, every day you write down your thoughts, feelings, experiences, and memories in this diary. And over time, it becomes a large record of your mental and emotional life. Just as the diary holds your personal narratives, the cheetah holds all your mental propensities, emotions, and thoughts. When you react emotionally to a situation based on a past experience, then this reaction is influenced by the impression stored in your cheetah. And then aham as a name tag or ID badge in which you identify and distinguish yourself from others. When you feel proud of your achievements or when you are being defensive about your opinions, that's basically aham at work. It's the part of you that asserts this is who I am or this is my thoughts. Now, for the Mahat as the internet, imagine Mahat as a vast interconnected network of information and knowledge that transcends individual users. Just as you can access a wealth of information from the internet, Mahat also represents this higher collective intelligence that goes beyond uh, our individual understanding. A common scenario is when you have a moments of deep insight or intuition seemingly out of nowhere, or when you feel a profound connection with others or nature. You could think of these moments tapping into your into your mahat, or the larger field of collective consciousness. Now, mm, through meditation, we can alter the patterns and impressions in chitta that leads to the changes in our mental and emotional states. This process is important because it leads to personal growth, and it allows us to overcome negative patterns. A peaceful chitta allows us for deeper meditation experiences and a heightened sense of well-being. And an advanced meditation practices can lead to a transcendent form of aham. It means that when you experience different states of consciousness, where the sense of separation, it becomes it, it diminishes and reveals a more interconnected and less egocentric view of reality. And once you connect with the mahat through meditation, it nurtures a sense of unity with with all beings in our universe, and it also fosters a universal compassion, love, and a sense of deep connectedness, which is very important for our spiritual growth. So, because these topics, the Chitta, Aham, and Mahat, yeah, it's a bit weird, but with the help of this analogy, I hope you get to better understand these concepts about the components, the three components of the mind. And another fascinating uh, topic regarding the mind. First, the components of the mind. Now, let's go to the 5 layers of the mind. All right. I'm gonna call. When I'm gonna call to. Um. Let us call Carol. Are you there? Do you want to read the 5 layers of the mind for us?
Okay. 5 layers of the mind. Kamamaya kosha, crude mind. This is the most external layer associated physical desires and sensory experiences. Manomaya kosha, subtle mind. This layer involves the mental processes like memories, dream and emotions. Atimanasa kosha, or supramental mind. This layer is related to higher mental functions, including intuition. Vijnanamaya kosha, subliminal mind. This kosha is associated with higher wisdom, discrimination, viveka, and detachment, vairagya. Hiranyamaya kosha, or the subtle causal mind, the most subtle layer representing the spiritual aspect of the mind, where the sense of individual I merges into the more universal sense of self.
All right. Thank you for that. So our mind is made of 5 layers. So this is the representation of the 5 layers of the mind. There's the outer circle, And as you go deeper and deeper, you get to the deepest layer of the mind, which is called the subtle causal mind or the unconscious. Zena got disconnected and she wants to join again. For a moment, I'll just speak to her directly. Mm. All right. Anyway, I hope she comes back. So the mind is like an onion having multiple layers. The Sanskrit term for layers is kosha or koshas. So each layer represents a different aspect of mental functioning, from the most physical and material to the most subtle and spiritual. The mind's expression, whether crude, subtle, depends upon these different koshas. So the first kosha or the first layer of the mind is called Kamamaya kosha. The other word for this kosha is the crude mind. The crude mind can be defined as the layer of the mind that is primarily concerned with the basic physical needs and desires. The part of our mind that is focused uh, on the material aspects of life, such as the need for food, clothing, and other physical comforts. Um, all right, let's try to unmute others so we cannot hear other noises in the background. So, like I'm saying, um, the Kamamaya Kosha is in the conventional psychological model, the Kamamaya Kosha corresponds with the conscious mind. It is the layer that is directly involved with the immediate sensory perceptions, thoughts, and actions. It is the most outward layer of the mind that interacts with the external environment and is responsible for the conscious processes in which we are directly aware of. And then the second layer of the mind is called the Manumaya Kosha or the subtle mind. This layer of the mind is responsible for the processing of our thoughts, our emotions, experience of pain and pleasure, and dreaming. It operates as the layer of the mind that handles more subtle and complex mental processes, which are not immediately in the field of our conscious awareness. In conventional psychology, the Manumaya Kosha or the subtle mind is the equivalent of the subconscious. The third layer is the Atimanasya Kosha or the supramental mind. It is a higher layer of the mind that goes beyond the ordinary cognitive and emotional processes. It is associated with a deeper intuition, insight, and a higher understanding that transcends our usual uh, mental reasoning and emotional responses. This layer of the mind is where our experience, uh, in which we experience more profound spiritual insights and intuitions. It connects us with a level of consciousness that is beyond our ordinary thinking mind. So, actually, the first layer the equivalent of the first layer is the conscious mind, and then the second layer, the equivalent of it, is similar to the subconscious, and the other three, uh, they are collectively known as the causal mind, in which the deepest part of the causal mind is the unconscious. So And then the fourth layer is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the subliminal mind. This fourth layer of the mind is concerned with the higher reasoning, it concerns with the higher reasoning, wisdom, and discernment. It is where our higher intellectual functions and deeper understanding reside. It is also associated with the development of insight, deep knowledge, and an intuitive grasp of abstract concepts and spiritual truth. And the deepest layer of our mind is called the Hiranmaya Kosha, or the subtle causal mind. The most subtle and the most profound layer of the mind. In Ananda Marga Yoga Psychology, in simple terms, this layer represents the deepest level of our being, the essence of our true self, or where the soul resides. This kosha is associated with the highest level of consciousness, spiritual realization, and a sense of unity with the universal consciousness. At the level of the Hiranmaya Kosha, the individual consciousness begins to merge with the cosmic consciousness, the state of being where one transcends the individual ego and experience a sense of one's oneness with all the existence. So that is the 5 layers of the mind. Now, let's talk about the consciousness. All right, let's call who's in here. All right. Only numbers. Anyway, Karen, can you read the definition? Karen, all right.
What is consciousness? Consciousness is the core of your existence, the fundamental reality or essence of existence.
Thank you for that. So now we're gonna talk about the consciousness. If the mind is already weird to you, then consciousness is more weirder, or yeah. But it's a very fascinating topic. It We define consciousness as the core of our existence and the fundamental reality, or the essence of existence. Consciousness is the fundamental reality because it is the origin of all existence, both living and the non-living. So it follows that in reality, there is really no such thing as non-living because everything has consciousness. And all the various forms and phenomena we observe in this universe are just different expressions of this underlying consciousness. Consciousness is pervasive and present everywhere. And the reason why we cannot see or feel consciousness in a direct, tangible way is similar to our experience with various forms of energy and force, like say electricity or the magnetic force. Just as these energies are invisible and only their effects can be observed and felt, so too is the case with consciousness. It is too subtle and can only be felt and realized. All right. Now, um, about the consciousness, there are two kinds of consciousness. Our unit or individual consciousness residing within us. And then the second one is the supreme or the universal consciousness. In this representation on this diagram, our unit consciousness are the small circles inside the large circle. And the large circle is the supreme consciousness. And all consciousness is inside it. So the unit consciousness is the consciousness that's present in each of us individually, while the supreme consciousness is the ultimate entity. It is beyond all limitations and distinctions. It pervades and transcends the universe. Supreme consciousness is similarly used um, to explain a consciousness that encompasses all things and beings. It reflects the interconnectedness and unity of all existence. That is why in this diagram, all these small circles are connected with lines to each other to represent the interconnectedness and unity of all existence. And the nature of all unit consciousness is to seek for the infinite, to realize the supreme consciousness. So the small circles, it has an inherent desire to be part of this encompassing larger circle, which is called the supreme consciousness. This longing to attain the supreme consciousness is inherent to all human, and what distinguishes human consciousness from that of animals. Human consciousness is not satisfied with the transient, earthly, and finite joy, and it continually seeks a deeper, more profound connection with the supreme consciousness. And then the next slide is the four states of consciousness. All right. Ragini, Rosa, do you wanna read the four states of consciousness?
Of course, Dada.
All right.
Consciousness, okay. Status of consciousness. Waking state, Jagrat. This is the state of consciousness in which one is fully awake and engaged with the external world. Dreaming state, Swapna. In this state, the individual is asleep and experiences dreams. It's a state of consciousness where the mind remains active while the body is at rest. Deep sleep state, Shushupti. This is a state of deep, dreamless sleep. Here, the individual does not experience dreams and is not conscious of the external world. Turiya, often referred to as the fourth state. Turiya is seen as a state of pure consciousness, transcending the previous three states. It is characterized by a deep sense of peace, awareness, and a feeling of unity with the universe.
All right, thank you for that. So this definition of the four state of consciousness is pretty much straightforward, and yeah, so there are four states of consciousness: the waking state, the dreaming state, and the deep sleep state, and then the last is the called turiya. It is the state of pure consciousness. So like right now, we are in the state of the waking state, or the jagat. All right, so components of mind active during the four states of consciousness. So in the first state, the waking state, here the conscious mind is active, while during the dreaming state, the subconscious mind is active, and during the deep sleep state, both the conscious and subconscious minds are at rest. And for the pure consciousness, Turiya is considered a state beyond the mind as we normally understand it. It's not characterized by activity in the conscious, subconscious, or unconscious mind. Instead, it's a state of pure consciousness or awareness beyond the mental fluctuations and processes of the other three states. The fourth state, the Turiya or the pure consciousness, is very difficult to describe. Maybe it's even impossible to describe what this pure consciousness, because when you reach or when you are in this state of consciousness, um, you are not functioning or operating in the same sense that you are operating when you are in a waking state, like what you are or like what we are doing right now. In the dream state is where the subconscious mind is active. So, all right. So that is the four states of consciousness. All right. So this basically the this is what I'm talking about when I talk about yoga psychology. All these topics, the layers of the mind, the function of the mind, and the different states of consciousness, and the difference between the mind and consciousness. So, having all this knowledge about the different layers of the mind, we can view meditation as an effort to reach the deepest uh, level of the mind, to attain the subtle causal mind or the unconscious. Or meditation is an effort to reach the Turiya or the pure consciousness. All right, so that is everything I have for tonight. So now let's open the forum for question and answers. If you have question, now is the time for you to raise questions or clarifications. You can write it on the chat box, or if you want to just speak directly on the audio, so everyone can hear your question or clarification. So our topics is about the mind and consciousness. Everything about what I've discussed is basically mind-boggling, but with this diagram, representation, explanation, I hope that you get to understand or get a better understanding about these topics. All right. So, Carol, do you have questions?
Yeah. My question is like the states of the mind and consciousness. They're all about the normal mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to ask about what about minds that are like riddled with ADHD or schizophrenia? Because I do have ADHD, and I used to be very good at meditation until I let go and I did not anymore pursue it. But now I'm having a very difficult time to meditate. Um, how does it figure in this discussion?
Well, in the context of yoga psychology, the mind is seen as a dynamic and multifaceted entity. It comprises various layers and dimension of consciousness. So it's a very complex thing, the mind. So it is possible that other states in between these four major states of consciousness exist, but it is only normal. But and also with the help of proper and regular spiritual practice like meditation, then it can be harmonized into a more healthy state of consciousness. So if you're having this kind of you think conditions, you don't have to be sad about it, but rather take it as an opportunity to understand more about yourself and then to understand how your mind works on certain situations. But it's perfectly healthy and normal to have this condition as long as you're aware of this condition and you are willing to harmonize this with meditation and other spiritual practices.
So are you familiar with some cases like
Mm.
have been cured or have been, who have been who were able to address their difficulty in like focusing in
Uh,
yoga? Is it
yeah,
possible to?
yeah, of course. The mind is can can it can adapt on all situations. The mind is like a plastic. It is very flexible. Uh, the more you use it, the more it become strong. And also, you don't have to think this condition as a disease or like something that you need to cure, but something you can treat as a special kind of state of mind, not as a disability. And also about this yoga psychology, we should not take it as a standalone concept, but rather more of a complementary to other school of thought like the conventional psychology, psychotherapy. So better to integrate our knowledge with yoga psychology and other school of thought to have a more holistic understanding of how our mind works.
Okay. Thank you, Dada.
All right. So other question, please. If you need some clarification about what we discussed right now, if yeah, now the time for you to ask this question again, either through writing on the chat box or just directly speak to the microphone like that. So I guess
Dada, I have a
yes,
question.
of course you have a question. Go ahead, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Dada? I have. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
All right. In the highest form of consciousness or the four stages, because I read this book.
Mm,
I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So in the highest form of the mind or levels of mind, if you like, it
mm,
says here that sometimes there is an example. I'm not sure of the actual ref, but it says that you always achieve bliss or ascendance for hours. The person was so exhausted that she turned into some sort of a wreck, and she became hysterical and collapsed for so many days and in a coma. Does it happen that way? And if it does, if you did, let's say, reach the highest form of consciousness,
mm.
would it be detrimental then to the individual? Or how would it benefit the individual if the effect would be that way?
Yeah, yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, I've seen other people uh entering trance during deep meditation. But of course, they return to normalcy, quote unquote normalcy, after some time. It's only like a momentary trance. In the yoga community, we call it samadhi. When someone enters this pure consciousness or a very deep levels of consciousness, there are many reasons why they collapse, or mostly because their body cannot sustain this level of consciousness. There is no parallelism or healthy parallelism between their body and their mind. So the mind basically either shut down or collapses because the levels of energy during that brief moments of heightened awareness is too much for the body. But um, well, is it good or bad to experience that? Well, the idea is to keep your body to match that level of awareness so that your body can sustain that. And that's why we have to prepare ourselves for meditation. Not only prepare the mind or prepare our mental pabulum, but rather to approach it in a holistic sense, in a way that you also prepare your own body. The body is the container of the brain and the mind. So without the body, the mind can't exist. So healthy mind or healthy consciousness requires a healthy body for you to appreciate or to rebuild the consciousness. That's why we have that's why we are practicing asanas, so that our glands, our chakras can be ready for this kind of transcendent experience. So yeah,
Thank you, Dada.
thank you for your question. If you have other question, feel free to ask again. Anyone wants to ask questions about dreams? All right. The last slides, other concepts relating to mind and consciousness. Dreams is also one of the interesting topics regarding yoga psychology. It is defined as the mental phenomenon during sleep, influenced by various factors as individual consciousness, mind, external stimuli, and the overall mental and emotional states of the dreamer. So now, why can't we remember our dreams upon waking up? The answer, the memory of dreams fades quickly after waking up due to the mind's transition from the dream state to the wakeful state. And then, can we access the subconscious mind during the waking state? The answer is yes, because the subconscious mind is still active during the waking state, and accessing it is possible through the practice of meditation and by understanding the function of the mind's conscious and subconscious aspects. All right. So if we don't have any other question, I
Hey,
think.
Dad, I have a
Oh yes,
question.
yes. Go ahead, of course.
Yep. Because I have this student who is going through depression, and I think he has bipolar, but it's undiagnosed yet. But the doctor has already told them that he has signs of schizophrenia. Anyway, the thing is, he's telling me that he's not dreaming anymore, and he's seeing a lot of hallucinations, both in visuals and hearing. So, is there a way on how I could maybe perhaps teach him how to use his mind to control those visions, or is that another whole thing No, is it more on those on a medical basis or something, or is there a way that we could use this lesson in applying to him during our classes? Thank you.
Um, well, yoga practices such as meditation is essential for this kind of condition, especially for everyone, because during meditation we can reduce the noise and quiet our mind, and this give us space to process different and difficult mental processes. So it is very important for us to be able for us to control our mind and to like to subjugate or to master it or to control it through concentration. In the popular psychology, there is thing called there's this thing called entering the state of flow, in which it is like a unbroken flow of concentration. So when the mind is one pointed, when the mind is relaxed, then it can reveal uh, the consciousness behind it, access this fascinating thing called consciousness. And the more we practice meditation, in my personal opinion, the mind becomes healthier and healthier. But if you focus your mind on material things, crude things, then your mind tends to become fragile, become broken. But if you keep it healthy by concentrating on positive thoughts, positive ideology, then the mind becomes healthy. All right.
I think the other there is something in the chat, maybe some question. I'm not sure if you answered.
Oh, I'm sorry. Uh,
Yeah,
about,
I there's something because my son has schizophrenia.
oh yeah.
There's danger. I was told that there may be he has to have a specialist with him if he tries to meditate because his state of mind is different from ours. So it may worsen it or it can improve. There's a danger that it would worsen. Are there specialists in yoga practice that could help in these cases?
Um, what about the other dadas in this forum? Maybe they have other insights or opinion about this thing that can help us, like Didi Anaraga, RS Dada, and who else is in here? Maybe they have some inputs regarding the topic of like special cases like schizophrenia. Are they okay to do meditation?
Or
All right.
maybe Ananda Marga would have some people with experiences on that who could share it with us, maybe.
Mhm.
Because they're suicidal, they're dangerous if they're not, well attended.
If they
Of course,
are,
it's not
if there
medication.
is chances that they would harm themselves, I think we have to relegate this task to the professional
Right.
psychologists, right? So
I
there's
think in schizophrenia, you have no control on the mind. The mind
yeah.
is totally taking the control. So I don't know. Meditation might be dangerous. It might just
Although
Yes.
he's medicated, he's able to control himself because he has medication. So I
yeah,
don't know.
exactly. It will need medication usually, and under medication, maybe don't know because I have no experience. I have no
Yeah.
Yeah.
knowledge.
I also think that a person suffering from this affliction called schizophrenia should not do meditation right away, but rather to be treated by the professionals. And then later on, when everything goes back to quote unquote normal, then we should start to heal this code called broken mind.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
There was another question there as well. Did you answer that or?
About what? As we
Asked, as we discussed, there are
yeah.
4 states.
As we
Yeah.
discussed, there are 4 states of consciousness. Is one of them superior to or better than the others? Could we aspire to a specific state? Okay. So the 4 states of consciousness: the waking state, the dreaming state, the deep sleep state, and the turiya. All these states has its own functions. Like what we are right now is in the waking state, and then in the evening when we go to sleep, then we enter this dreaming state. And then as we go deeper and deeper to this dreaming state, then we enter this state called the deep sleep state, in which there is no dream involved. And then the ideal, which is very rare to happen, is this the turiya, or the pure consciousness, in which we align our unit consciousness to the supreme consciousness by the virtual practice of meditations and other spiritual practices. I would not say that the one is superior to other, but the goal is to reach the last state, which is the pure consciousness. But the other states has their own equally important functions.
So what is the difference of Turiya and Mahat, or are they the same?
They are interchangeable, Didi, but there are also some distinction regarding them. Like I said, it's very difficult to describe what's going on during these states, as our normal chitta, our normal waking state, is not functioning the same way it functions in this deep or highest state. But they're almost similar in that sense. All right, I think Rom is raising her hand. So go ahead, Rom. What's your question? Do you have a question?
Hi, Dada. That was my question. So
Yeah.
I left a comment again. So I said that, okay, now that I understand, I thought there are there has to be a certain state lang that we should be in. So now it's clear to me. But so I find this discussion interesting but also bitin. So now next time you have to tell us how we can better control the mind so it does not wander as it pleases.
Well, the nature of the mind is to be always wandering. It's always restless, always fluctuating, simply because the brain or the mind through the brain is always receiving information all the time. So when an information enters our brain or our mind, it triggers many things like memories, emotions. That's why our mind is always fluctuating. And that's why it is impossible to actually to mute the mind, or to empty the mind. There will always be some noises in our mind. We can only reduce this noise, but of course through constant practice, and with the help of supreme consciousness, hopefully we can achieve this higher state of consciousness, in which the mind doesn't operate anymore, but rather it reveals the consciousness that has always been there all along, hiding behind the mind, the consciousness. The idea of of meditation is to access and reach consciousness. We can only do this if we can transcend the mind. All right.
I would like to share a thought, if I may.
Yes, DDG, go ahead.
I think, like Baba say, when the child is born and in the first intake of breath, the mahat or the I feeling appear.
Mhm.
And when you say in that area, in that state, like there is the feeling of unity with everything.
Mhm.
And they also say in psychology that when the child is very young, very small, it doesn't see itself separate from anything. It sees itself be one with the mother and one with everything that is around. That is like explained in the mind of the very small child in psychology. So
Yeah.
I feel that it is kind of all connected with Baba's philosophy and the modern philosophy,
Yes, Didi.
that
Yeah.
the mind start up in, and the mind actually starts up in that. And Baba said that every life in the very beginning after birth, there is the experience of bliss.
Yeah.
Not only humans, also animals, also other life. So that is the experience or the state of Mahat in human being actually appears in the very beginning of life.
Yeah. That's a very good insight, Didi. No, uh, the consciousness or the state of consciousness of a
Mm.
baby is very pure, but
Mm.
as that baby grow old, it accumulates different impressions, imprints, experiences that clouds this consciousness, and
Right.
it
The
become less and
substance.
less. It become less and less aware of this pure consciousness. But the idea
Right.
is to reverse that process, to be able to achieve that consciousness when we were, let's say, baby, like pure and yeah, pure like that.
Right. And in the education, it's interesting in education how to help the child to remind, to remain in that, because the young children even they can easily enter
Yes.
that state of. So how in education we can utilize that to help the child continue stay in that state and become aware of that state of self.
Yeah. And then regarding about the topic about the special case of the person suffering from schizophrenia, the RS said that meditation might be difficult for those who already had mental problems. But one
Mm.
particular practice called kirtan may help the person to be able to open their
Right.
heart and mind to the spiritual
Right.
energy from the supreme consciousness emanating from practice of kirtan, as the sound of mantra help a person to develop complete surrender. In Ananda Marga, we use the universal mantra Bhavanam Kevalam, means the feeling of infinite. Love is everything. So yeah, that's very good point, no? Because we have to accept it that not everyone is capable of meditating. Not everyone is capable of concentrating their mind in a most heightened sense. So there is another alternative, which is called dynamic meditation, in which we chant or we sing a mantra, and then this mantra will have a transformative effect on the person chanting or singing, and also the people around that person. So it is the like a special kind of meditation, but more dynamic. Even even people suffering from psychological problems can do this, like to chant the meditation, chant the mantra of Babanam Kebalam. This simple act of chanting can significantly help the person heal his broken or her broken mind, and to be able to recover from mental afflictions. So, another recommendation other than the meditation is the kirtan or the chanting of Babanam Kebalam. It doesn't require much compared to meditation, because you only need to be sincere in chanting or singing Babanam Kebalam, and of course the sincerity when you chant or sing this mantra. Thank you very much, Dada, for that reminder to all of us that mantra is equally powerful, equally important. Other than meditation, there is the kirtan. All right.
Yeah, I'm just one why this is very interesting for me to share, because I was in Iloilo last month,
Mhm.
and I have seen one boy that the mother himself that shared to me how the son has this transformative change. His autism, so basically he's very restless, no? So the moment the mother brought him to the center and sing kirtan together, actually he not able to sing, but he was sitting there and listening, and immediately, like, he can calm, the mother can leave him alone while she is doing the kirtan with the others member, like that. That's why I share that might help for some people actually. Yeah, thank you. I think there is question, Dada, maybe you can
Oh,
answer.
how do you do Babanam Kebalam? Babanam Kebalam is the universal mantra of Ananda Marga. So basically, you can sing it, or you can chant it, or you can synchronize the word Babanam Kebalam with your breathing during meditation. But during kirtan, you just sing Babanam Kebalam. This act of singing, this act of chanting is called kirtan. In YouTube, there are lots of songs, lots of kirtan songs or melodies in which you can listen, and then you can also sing it along. So you can do kirtan on your own. And also you can just listen it. You can just play it all as long as you want. You can play it on your on your YouTube, on your cell phone. And this kirtan of Babanam Kebalam, it gives you some sort of it has a calming effect on your mind. It effects is very subliminal, very subtle. Without even you knowing it, it makes you a better person. It calms your mind, and hopefully, for those people suffering from mental problems, it heals them slowly, slowly. So for the meditation, the basic um, uh, Babanam Kebalam meditation is to sit quietly, and then in your mind, mentally just recite Babanam Kebalam together with your breath. So as you inhale, you mentally recite Pabanam, and then as you exhale, you mentally recite Kebalam. And then you have to internalize the meaning of that praise, which is love is the essence of life, or love is everything. Because love is the purest, the most positive thought human can think of. So the more you internalize this concept in your mind, and then it will transform the mind to adapt, to manifest this mantra. So it will become more loving, your mind will become peaceful, it will create many, many positive effects in your personality. So yeah. Anything else? If not, let's call it a day. All right, so I think that's all for now.
Thank you,
Uh,
Dada. Very interesting.
Thank you very much for joining this webinar, this class. And I hope you learned something about mind and consciousness, and then use this knowledge to understand how your mind works and how to control our mind, and to be able to improve ourselves through meditation and kirtan practices. If you have other questions relating to yoga psychology or Ananda Marga, you can just message us in Ananda Marga, attend the yoga classes, and then approach the dadas or the didis, and then you can ask questions about other topics regarding yoga and spirituality in general. Do you have a book recommendation, please? Ananda Marga has lots of books regarding psychology or yoga psychology. There's actually one book called Yoga Psychology in Ananda Marga. You can purchase it from Dada RS when you come back to the yoga studio. If he has available book, then he can sell it to you. So yeah, oh yeah, that's the address. Yeah, Rom is always there. So All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining this class. Hope to see you again, and always do your meditation. Always take care of yourself. Always help others whenever you can, and contribute to the positive welfare of the world. Namaskar and good night. Sorry,
Namaskar.
we are over time now, but thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Dadan. Thank you.
Namaskar,
Namaskar to
everyone.
all. Thank you so much, Daraji. Thank you all.